My job here today is just to help out Sue and help all of you remember her brother, who I did not know, I did not meet, but I did read the write-up about him, and he was a hero. He was a hero. Sue and I go back a long way. I go back even further with her former husband. We grew up together in San Fernando Valley, and I'm pleased to be able to do this. We're going to go over to the Vietnam hangar and get started.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thanks a lot.
Sir.
Yes, thank you. I'm not sir. My dad was sir.
I know how that goes.
Okay, come on in, please. No, thanks again. Okay, I think we've got everybody here. I think we're all set. Sue, do you want to say anything to get this started?
Gosh, I got a couple of things here that, since we're in this room, I may as well show them. This is, you're going to take a look at this. That's my brother. The last picture taken of him, and that's next to the airplane.
Oh, okay.
He was a bird dog. So what kind of plane is that?
A bird dog? He was in a Cessna?
Yeah. It was an ostrich goose. We had one out front, and he probably spent a little time in a grasshopper as well.
Okay.
And then this one is taken, somebody who was, in fact, standing next to him at Fort Rugge, and then you're in a doctor aviation. I'm here for thing no story. But anyway, my brother's the Latin one with the red up there, and so even just pass it around as a foot clip. But and then a book was written about him, what he went through when they were around, and so he died in 1967. So it's been a long time that I get to remember them. And people from around the country, they have sent things to, my brother Barron is right here. They've been sending things to Barron over the years. They send things to me, just in remembrance. And the fraternity, you guys honor him all the time. Yeah, there were 4 of us kids, and I've said it before, and I mean, he was the best of us. And and this is what he yeah, and this kind signed a fraternity brother, Lloyd, who went to USC. Before I even thought I knew, he was a party boy. My brother was, and the first time I was in high school, first time I ever stayed at 24 hours was at a fraternity party. It was a state guy, and he loved people and partying and stuff. Do you remember that, Pablo? I think.
There was that party, but other.
Yeah.
He didn't. It wasn't just the one party.
Exactly. Why don't you come up and say a few words?
Okay. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, motorcycle riders. We appreciate you all coming. And of course, Steve Giddings, who is the commander of the American Legion post in Tustin, which I'm a member of. And thank you, Rick, one of my pledge brothers, fraternity brothers. We've been together since 1963. And that's how we met Lloyd. Lloyd was already a fraternity member when we got to USC. And of course, Sue, thanked you all. You all are Sue's friends or relatives, but it was nice to have a nice group here. And Steve is, when he comes up after me, he will talk about the Run for the Wall and how my involvement with this came about. But our fraternity brothers, we start getting together again after close to 45 years, I think. About 15 years ago, we started to get together. First it was Rick and I, and then it was 4, and then it was 6. And we have now a group of about 30. Not all can make it, not all are up to it. We used to get together once a month for lunch at the Tustin Ranch Golf Club. And then COVID hit, and then we started doing Zoom calls. So we still continue to get together, and we're always talking about Lloyd and some of the other fellows who had passed, and none of them are forgotten. So about 4 months ago, Steve was telling me at a American Legion meeting that he was going to participate in the Run for the Wall, which is a motorcycle ride with fellas and ladies from all over the United States that were going to converge at the Vietnam Wall on Memorial Day. And they've been doing this for a number of years. Steve, this is his first participation in it, and asked if there's anybody that he should be thinking of or talking about. And I'll leave it at that for Steve, because he'll talk about the rest of it. But that's why I wanted to thank all of you fellas for getting involved and being friends of Steve's. So Steve asked me if I had any information on Lloyd. And one of our fraternity brothers, Mark Winsriggs, we used to call him Ziff, who actually came to the runway dedication, sent me a lot of information, which I then forwarded out. So many of you had that information. So Steve asked, would I put together a tribute to Lloyd so that he knows him better and can talk about him along the ride, and he'll tell you all about that as soon as I finish. So I did. And Susie, should I call you Susie or Sue?
Lloyd always called me Susie, so that's the
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we remember that. Okay, so Steve asked me to write a tribute for Lloyd, and then Susie asked me if I would read it here today. So it's not very long, it's just big print. Sorry, I don't read as well without the glasses. Okay, so this is what I wrote for Steve. It's entitled, A Tribute to U.S. Army First Lieutenant Lloyd T. Rugge. We are the offsprings, the sons of the greatest generation. We're not called baby boomers. That belongs to those born from 1946 to 1964. We were called war babies, having been born during the World War II years. A fitting name, since as we became of adult age, a war in Vietnam awaited us. Lloyd Rugge was a friend and brother to those of us in Theta Chi fraternity at the University of Southern California. Those were the pre-Vietnam collegiate fun days of the early 1960s. As Susie was saying, the Barron days. The days when our fraternity antics would be called college hijinks. And Rick and I remember many things that we did that today they would be called felonies. Very easily, but nobody complained in those days. Lloyd went to high school in North Hollywood, along with his sister and two brothers. He enrolled at USC in 1960 and joined Theta Chi fraternity in his sophomore year. He was always a leader and a party person at the fraternity house. Upon graduation in 1964, he, like many of our fraternity brothers before and after him, entered the military to serve our country. Lloyd was a year ahead of Rick and I, and after graduation, I also went to the military. Lloyd went to basic training at Fort Ord and then advanced individual training and officer candidate school at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, specializing in artillery. I went to Fort Ord in Georgia and then Fort Knox and OCS in armor, tanks. So we had very similar backgrounds. I grew up in West Covina. He grew up in North Hollywood, just one valley or the other, same business. Lloyd then went on to flight school and became, and this is kind of a long title, an artillery, aerial, reconnaissance, and intelligence officer. That, I believe, was his formal title. Flying a small single rotary engine Cessna aircraft, and was sent to Vietnam. On January 26, 1967, while flying an unarmed aerial reconnaissance mission over enemy territory at Duc Pho, Vietnam, First Lieutenant Rugge saw a platoon-sized force of American soldiers pinned down by hostile fire and requested aircraft aid. His single-engine Cessna airplane was not equipped or intended for combat duty. However, seeing the urgency of the situation and without waiting for the requested armed U.S. gunships, First Lieutenant Rugge immediately began to provide air support by diving his plane at the Viet Cong position to distract the fire from the American forces. On his second dive, his aircraft received multiple hits from enemy gunfire, and he crash-landed among the VC positions. He was killed by intense enemy fire as he climbed from his burning wreckage. The Army told his family later that he died in a feat of bravery above and beyond the call of duty, a hero. Due to First Lieutenant Rugge's selfless actions, he was able to save many American lives and delayed a Viet Cong attack until armored American aircraft, primarily helicopter gunships, arrived and destroyed the VC position. Lloyd was posthumously awarded the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and the Air Medal Citation for gallantry in action. Those are very powerful medals, the Silver Star and the Bronze Star. 27 years later, on July 1, 1994, the Army remembered First Lieutenant Lloyd T. Rugge by dedicating the Rugge Hamilton Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Runway in his honor at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, at which many of his family, friends, and fraternity brothers attended. Steve will talk to you about that because there are some amazing facts, but I'm not going to interfere with Steve talk. Lloyd's younger sister, Susan, said at the time, "Now, with the use of drones, I hope no other pilot will have to die like my brother." We are very honored that the Army did not forget. Those were Susan's words. And that's what I wrote for Steve. And for Ethan, you and Barron. Thank you. And your family.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody else is nice and cool.
Excuse me, before you start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Today, the Army has a wide variety of aircraft to be used in the accomplishment of its mission.
So, a couple of dates I want to point out in what Cy was talking about today. And ladies, you don't have to raise your hand on this, but how many of you were not alive yet on January 26th of 1967? Just go ahead and raise your hand. Close. Yeah, I can join that crew. How many of you remember where you were? That was the day that Lloyd passed away, that Lloyd died bravely. How many of you know exactly where you were on July the 1st, 1994? Sue, you can raise your hand. You know where you were. Yeah, that's right. There were a couple of us that know where we were. Brian and the other brother's name was Rick, okay. I remember where I was, and this is important for you. I was stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona on July the 1st, 1994. I was, sorry, dropping things, don't worry about it. I was an aerial intelligence specialist transitioning to a drone operator at Fort Huachuca, Arizona on July the 1st, 1994. So when Cy told me Lieutenant Rugge's story, it hit home because it tied all of that together. An observation, reconnaissance aircraft observer, and the renaming of a runway at Fort Huachuca, Arizona when I was there. I remember the renaming of the Rugge Hamilton runway. It's the runway that I worked at for a period of about 6 months when I was at Fort Huachuca. My son was born at Sierra Vista, Arizona, by the way. He's 30 years old this year on Christmas Day. That's just side story. That has nothing to do with this story. That's just side story. Very briefly about Run for the Wall. Run for the Wall is in its 35th year now. It's a motorcycle ride that goes from Ontario, California to Washington, D.C. It's a 10-day ride, and I love the music in the background. I hope that this video picks it up, the audio on that really, really well. So appropriate right now. But I hope you all can hear me most of all. That's the important thing. So like Cy said, we had some Basheret. We had some too many similarities. There was too much that we needed to get together. Which, by the way, Cy did his officer training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I did my basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Anybody else do their basic at Fort Knox? Yeah, whew. Lucky. I'm going to keep this really brief so that you can get out and see everything here. Beautiful, beautiful museum. I've been here a few times. Go and check it out. So we started on Wednesday, May the 15th this year in our cross-country trip. I was an FNG. Oh, where is it? There it is. I was an FNG. For those of you who are Vietnam era, an FNG is a fun new guy. Or gal. And the F doesn't mean fun. On our first leg of the trip was from Ontario, California to Williams, Arizona. And I'm not going to go over every leg of the trip. I just want to go over this next leg of the trip for you. Because on Thursday, May the 16th, 2024, First Lieutenant Lloyd Rugge was selected to be honored as a missing man as part of Run for the Wall Central Route. Run for the Wall is a 10-day motorcycle formation ride from Ontario, California to the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. The mission of Run for the Wall is we ride for those who can't. You'll see some of my friends here that rode with me, and they have the patch. It says we ride for those who can't. First Lieutenant Rugge's biography was provided to the Missing Man Coordinator. The Missing Man formation is comprised of the route coordinator and the state coordinator in the front row, the rider escorting the missing man, and the empty space for the missing man in the second row, and then the Missing Man Coordinator and the head chaplain in row 3 at the front of what we're doing. This is right out front of everything we're doing, except for fuel team and staging team, which we won't talk about today. They were way up ahead, laughing at us. First Lieutenant Lloyd Rugge's position in the formation was left empty to honor the fact that First Lieutenant Rugge never returned home from Vietnam. First Lieutenant Rugge was honored in the 90-mile leg of the Run for the Wall, starting in downtown Williams, Arizona, through a parade in Winslow, Arizona. I got to ride next to Lloyd, and that was a great honor for me. A copy of the biography that was just read so eloquently by Cy, and I have a copy of that right here, was placed under Lloyd Rugge's name in the panel at the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. My friend James took a picture of me laying that biography. Your family member was a hero. A grateful country thanks you. I wear 2 patches on the back of my cut, my vest, that mean a lot to me. One of them is scripture verse that says, greater love have no man than this, that he laid down his life for his brothers. And the other one says this, and it's from Plato. It says, it is not the worst thing to die in war. It is not the worst thing to be missing in war. The worst thing is to be forgotten in war. Let us not forget First Lieutenant Lloyd Rugge. One of the things that I got for your family, and Sue, come on up here. Susie, come on up here. Barron, come on up. What you guys do with this, I'm going to present it to both of you. What you do with this is entirely up to you. This is a familial keepsake, okay? And I'm going to present it to Susie because I've been talking to her. The outer box is shredded, and it's that way for a reason. On day 4, we rode through Kansas in May. Do you know what happens in Kansas in May? Tornadoes and hailstorms. Tornadoes and hailstorms. This made it through the hailstorm. I'm not even joking with you. We were riding through hail. Some of us were laughing at others riding through hail. Others were saying expletives. This made it. So the outside of this box, although it looks a little worn, it's for good reason. There's a couple of things in there, and I'll have you go ahead and look at that. This is presented to you from the Run for the Wall in honor of your loved one. Go ahead. Go ahead and
Run
look.
for the wall, POW, MIA. You are not forgotten. Missing man.
Missing man formation. So it's a star cut from the American flag, a missing man pin, and a missing man patch. And then someday, go ahead, you can bring that in.
Oh, Steve. Oh, thank you so much.
It's my honor. It's my honor. It's my honor. It's my honor, Barron. Thank you. There's a note in there too that somebody will find someday, because it's going to get into it. You know what we do with stuff. It ends up in the stuff drawer, and 3 generations from now, somebody's going to look back and see the hero in your family. Thank you, folks.
Can I need to, if you don't mind? No. Well, we would like for others to hear what you have to say. Okay, if you don't, I'm
Okay.
sorry, if you don't mind. Okay.
Well, I'm a little emotional right now.
Oh, I'm
so,
sorry. I understand.
Yeah, I just have a hard time. We were at Fort Huachuca during the ceremony. It was rather extravagant. It was honoring a few other spies and stuff like that, even from other countries. But and we went out to the airstrip that was named after him in Hamilton, and it was very impressive. I just missed my brother.
At Fort Huachuca, they treated us like, I guess, like a family of somebody who should be recognized. But we had 2 guys with us all the time, and they took us to Tombstone, Arizona. They took us to other places, whatever we wanted to do. And there was a big ball at night. Steve, were you there? Yeah. Big party at night. I mean, everybody got dressed up and everything.
Yeah,
Remember that?
everybody
Yeah.
was.
But I mean, it was quite a dedication, and grateful to them. But
We even had 4-star generals come up and
yeah,
talk to us.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Said he was a hero.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay. Enough.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and thank you. And thank you, Steve.
I can't say anymore. I'm just.
Yeah. Thanks.
Steve didn't mention, but he was in Desert Storm, and he was flying in a similar plane to Lloyd. I believe it was a two-seater plane, yeah. And he was doing similar things to Lloyd that Lloyd did in Vietnam. And there's so many similarities. And Steve is also a hero for what he did in Desert Storm. And he deserves a round of applause for putting all this together as well. So.
I don't know why.
Why? But, you know, again, thank you so much for
It's our honor.
just not
It really
forgetting
is.
him, you know? I mean, they said that my parents were told this and that. My parents were lied to at the beginning, you know, by the Army, which they have to do, you know. And they both passed before that runway was dedicated to them, so they never saw that. And so that's unfortunate, you know, because you know, families are all different, but my parents were party people, and you know, and they never had another party after he died. You know, it killed them, if you know what I mean. It just absolutely changed their lives. And yeah, so, and he was, as I was telling Cy, one thing I liked about my brother so much is that he was always honest with me, and Playboy magazine was popular, and he lined his bedroom walls with the centerfolds, and he got the magazines. Thank you.
I know you want it back.
Yeah, yes, but and they got the magazines, and I didn't understand some of the jokes. I was younger, so he would sit me down and explain.
That's funny.
Yeah, he was. So he was. Yeah.
Sounds like he had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, he had a good sense of humor, and just a good, I don't know, a grounding. You know, he knew who he was. I guess is the thing. You know, I'm still figuring out who I am. So you know, but. Thank you. What is your name?
I'm Becky, and
Becky.
I had the pleasure of riding in a platoon with Steve through the tornado and all the
and
things.
All of this. With the beat-up box.
Being able to honor your brother along the way.
Yeah,
so,
thank you so much. It's
it's truly a privilege.
Now they say that 2,000 people end up at the wall.
Yeah,
is that right?
there are 3 routes that go from Ontario. There's a central route, there's a midway route, and a southern route.
Okay, and you take the southern.
We took the
so we start together and we all end together.
End together.
Yeah,
How
we start
cool.
in Ontario, then we all split up and we end in Ontario.
Very
So
cool.
there's about 400 or so bikes in each route.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there's a 4th route that goes from Washington, D.C. to Illinois.
So that's the sandbox route, goes wall to wall. So from the Vietnam Memorial Wall to the Middle East Conflicts Wall in Illinois.
Wow, okay.
So, and then we did that as well.
Well,
anyway,
yeah, thank you,
privilege
Becky.
and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Thanks for sharing. I'm so glad you guys